In this video I will continue sharing tips and tricks playing 1v1 games on classic Risk map with these settings. Be very wise with the territories, not only when picking them, but also when recapturing or capturing them. Try to think of ways which could help you improve your position. In this game the blue player having Australia and a capital on its border has invaded me into South America and Africa. So what at first I thought is to recapture South America, and then adding some troops to Africa to recapture it and also finish capture Europe. But when I came to the realization that it might be better to add all troops to the capital and capture the territories which are in the way of it, and by doing that not only to capture more territories in general because of not having to split any troops, but also to make the blue player cut well enough that he could possibly not have enough troops to reach South America. And this plan has worked out very well. In my turn I've got even 11 troops and started having the advantage over the blue player, and with him failing to invade South America for another time, the last chance for him to win was to take an unfavorable capital attack which fortunately for me he failed. And that game might explain why I lost this earlier game. As you can see in this game I kinda had the same opportunity, but I decided to go after the Asian territories which weren't important for the blue player. So what I think I could have done is capture both of the Americas instead, and leaving a few troops on the South American border. Or if you can think of anything better then let me know in the comments section down below. Maybe instead of capturing both of the Americas or the Asian territories, I should have had to capture South America and Australia properly guarding the borders. That's another idea I have in mind. And here is another good move which we could learn from the same exact game one round later. If your opponent is low on troops on his capital, then if you know that you have a relatively good success chance to take that capital down, then you could take it. 17 versus 6 blitz roll has 99% chance, so the blue player knowing that blitzed it. And what I noticed is if the capital blitz roll has a very high success rate, then usually you lose around the same number of troops as your opponent had on his capital. The hypothesis based on some of my observations of balanced blitz dice rolls, and if I am wrong on that, then please correct me in the comments. But what I want to showcase by this blue player's move is that while he had a 99% blitz roll, for me to recapture that capital was only 44% chance. So the blue player knowing the probabilities took the advantage of it. But even if I had successfully recaptured that capital, then the blue player getting troops probably would have had a very good chance to blitz it successfully again, so he would have just recaptured it, winning the game. And here is another example. The blue player knowing the probabilities has decided to take the advantage of it once again with me leaving my capital relatively weak. He had 93% chance to blitz it and he successfully made it. I recaptured that capital, but with me having only 3 troops on it left, the blue player took it again, but this time winning the whole game. I think in this game it was a mistake for the blue player to put his armies in the places which both of them would be cut from accessing both of the Americas, with me placing my capital on the territory of North Africa. As with me leaving his armies cut from the Americas and capturing South America with leaving 3 troops on the border, I received 2 extra troops without the blue player being able to invade South America. And with me easily taking over his captured Australia and with along properly guarding it, the blue player ended up in a total disadvantage. Then I really like this game. I put my troops to 2 different armies on the Brazil and Siam territories, so it would increase my chances to either hold South America or Australia depending on the blue player's troop selection. So with our setup reveal, what I decided to do is to put my capital on Siam to block the blue player Australian troops, and then using the Brazilian troops to capture both of the Americas, and with my capital troops to blitz the blue player's Middle East army. Then the blue player not adding all troops outside Australia failed to invade me into North America. But besides that he was still able to get a very fortunate blitz roll crushing my capital. I didn't give up and still tried to increase my advantage by capturing a lot of territories, so not only I would increase my territorial advantage but that the blue player would be forced to go through my continents. Though I think I shouldn't have captured Africa, I think I should have left these 6 or 5 troops to Brazil or North Africa. But anyways, the blue player going through my continents ended up being weak, and I was able to not only recapture my capital but to capture his one as well. And with him failing to recapture a capital, the game was over for him. In this game it was a mistake for me to capture Australia instead of adding all of my troops to make sure to invade blue into South America. I could have still tried invading it, but then my capital would have been left with basically no troops, so the blue player would have taken over it. In this game it was probably a mistake for me to add my capital on the territory of Siam rather than on Brazil. As with the white player capturing Australia, both of the Americas and Europe, I was basically forced to use all of my capital troops to invade him into all of his continents, and along the way also make 2 splits which aren't beneficial because they lead to capturing fewer territories. But if you select your capital to be next to your opponent's capital, then there's a risk that your opponent decides to immediately blitz it, getting a very favorable blitz roll. The pink player took a 71% chance blitz roll and ended up losing only 2 troops more than me, which is very good for a capital blitz roll. Anyways, in this case, considering that the pink player would have been able to capture only 3 territories with his biggest army, it was probably a mistake for me to add my capital on the territory of North Africa rather than on Siam. But getting back to the last game with the white player, we could learn another valuable tip, is that instead of overexpanding in a clearly dominating position, we shouldn't forget about the capital's safety as well. In this turn the white player not only unleashed my troops, but also left his capital with only 5 troops by capturing Africa when it wasn't needed at all, already having both of the Americas with Europe. So obviously, with it being my last chance, I took that 44% blitz roll, which was fortunate for me enough to win this game in a losing situation. In this game it was a mistake for me to add my second army to the territory of Middle East instead of Siam. As with the green player capturing both of the Americas, I was forced to use all of the new troops to invade them, and with Middle East army being cut from Australia, I wasn't able to invade the green player into it. So I think it would have been much better if I added my Middle East troops to the territory of Siam instead. Or if wanting to put my troops to the territory of Middle East, then I shouldn't have picked the territory of Siam, so my army would have been accessible to invade the green player into Australia. Also probably it would have been much better for me to add my capital on the Central America territory, as 21 versus 14 blitz roll would have only had 31% success chance. So I doubt the green player would have taken it, probably adding his troops to somewhere else. And these troops he added into Brazil would have been capital blocked, with him only being able to capture these 2 South American territories with them.